guys, it's Nurse J again at Nursing the Truth, and yes, I am up late. It's past my bedtime. I just did a video about the New World Order. So, my husband's working late tonight, and my little one's in bed, so why not spread the truth to the late night owls? Okay, so, I have God Thoth here, which is a representation of the Creator called the All, the universal consciousness. You see, the ancient Egyptians were very religious. And I'm going to get on a rant for just a moment. So, my black brothers and sisters, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I know that Africa, where Egypt is at, is very, very hot. And people like us will burn very badly over there. People have to know and think that there were black people there in the very beginning of pre-dynastic times. And there were other people that came into Egypt that mixed with the darker skinned people. If you go back and look at the very beginning of the kingly dynasties, as in Narmer, they are black. And yes, I do know a lot of people get upset when people like myself talk about these things. But, Nurse J has to speak the truth. Even Champollion, the Egyptologists, even talked about that the Egyptians wrote about different colored people living in the area. And they talked about a particular people called the Tamahus that came out of the Caucasus Mountains. And, white people are called Caucasians. That's over there where Russia is. So long ago, Egypt was a civilized country. And everyone wanted to come to Egypt because everything was running harmoniously. Not to say that there were spits and spatters along the way, but they had a justice system and court systems and laws. They took care of those little not so friendly fellows. So enough of my little rant about that. We will get more into the dynasty of Egypt. So why do I start off with that? You see, my truth seekers, whether you know it or not, and I'm not trying to make this, this is not a racial video, okay? This is a truth video. And if you cannot handle the truth, then you need to not watch my videos. But, have you ever just been around black people a lot and to talk to them? They're very humble people, and, they're very spiritual people. Now, a lot of the black people have been indoctrinated with Christianity. And we will get into that, how they raped Egypt okay, with the Greeks. Um, but why force a black man to worship a white man on a cross? I mean, that is very, very brainwashing. Okay? So you take black people that are free and you bring them to this crap hole, and then you tell them to worship a white man on a cross, and it's their God. Well, wait a minute, but it doesn't look anything like them. So that's not good. So, anyway, I just have a lot of issues with a lot of things nowadays. A lot of things have been opened up to my eyes. And Egypt has given the world everything. Egypt has given spirituality. And my friends, we must turn back to what was given to the world. John Anthony West wrote in his book, her entire civilization was based upon religion, and religion entered into every aspect of it, including her system of weights and measures. Every action, no matter how mundane, was in some sense a religious act. Plowing, sowing, reaping, brewing, building ships, waging wars, playing games, all were viewed as earthly symbols for divine activities. In Egyptian religion, though, it must possess some strange features to people, like my god Thothi here. It neither as inconsistent nor inexplicable as was once supposed is actually a good deal easier to explain to a total stranger than, say, the Roman Catholicism creeds and rituals that stink. The entire Egyptian doctrine was based on the manner in which a spiritual generates and interacts with the physical. See, the spiritual and the physical. The study of physical realities is the essence of physical science, and the study of spiritual realities is the essence of sacred science. Sacred geometry that Thoth has, that Thoth Hermes Trismegistus teaches. It is important to realize that for Egyptians, every physical fact of life had a symbolic meaning. At the same time, every symbolic act of expression had a material background. The ancient Egyptians noticed at an early stage of their history an analogy between life and daily cycles of the sun. The temples were not built for public worship. They were shrines for the Neter, who represented various aspects of the one God. Did you hear me, what I just said? The one God, monotheistic. Way before Christianity. Way before Judaism. Way before Islam. There was no prescribed or organized system of worship as per our modern understanding. Good deeds, not lip service, were the method of worship. The principles of the Egyptian religion, by definition, is any system of belief, worship, or conduct which often invokes a code of ethics and philosophy. The main elements of the Egyptian religion, as existed since its early history, consisted of God, the divine origin, the creation of the universe, creation of man and his role, the canons, and the afterlife. God, the divine origin, in its strictest sense, was monotheistic, one creator, all. The Egyptians regarded the universe as a conscious act of creation by the one great God. It is the functions and attributes of his domain that were represented. Once a reference was made to his functions, attributes, he became a distinguishable agent, reflecting this particular function or attributes and its influence in the world. His various functions and attributes were the creator, wise, healer, everlasting, and the like were called the Neteru. Singular, Neter in the masculine form and Netert in the feminine form. See, they knew that the creative consciousness was male and female. As such, an Egyptian Neter or Netert was not a god or goddess, but the personification of a specific function or attribute of the one God. Oh, my dear friends, you're going to love this. Most people think that the above is too complicated and too cumbersome, but it is not. Most of the present day religions believe in little angels whose functions are to perform specific and various functions in the kingdom of God. Their functions are similar to the function of the Egyptian Neteru. These godly attributes represented by the Neteru either worked individually or in triads. Did you just hear what I said? Triads, Trinity, Osiris, Isis, Horus. The third Neter resulted from the other two Neteru. In every city, one of these combinations was a triad of that location. The first members were not always of the first order of the Neteru, and an attribute of that deity might be combined with some abstract idea to form a result, the third member of the triad. There was no animal worship, you dumb butts. You know, I am so fed up, okay, with people saying Egypt was nasty, Egypt was demonic, Egypt was Satan, Egypt was blasphemous, Egypt was everything but holy. But when you go research the religious systems of the day, especially Christianity that took everything from here and there and yonder, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt, Greece, Rome, you little Zeus. Then if you go search, which most people don't, but when you go search and you find the truth of where this comes from. And it's all Egyptian, pretty much, in the Christian Bible. If Egypt was so demonic and bad, then Christianity is demonic too. But, see, the blame game and the writers and the scribes have to switch everything on you. It's that combo of what's good is bad and what's bad is good. You see? The animal-headed Neteru monsters and other strange little creatures, they say, were symbolic expression of a deeper spiritual meaning. Yes, Thoth, you do have a deeper spiritual meaning. To me, this view is also shared by the Hermetic, Masonic orders, and the Renaissance Neoplatonists. They knew that there was a deeper hidden meaning in these animal representations. Animals were considered an embodiment of certain specific divine principles and functions. Divine. A dog, for example, is the best representation embodiment of loyalty. You hear me what I'm saying? You say a dog is a man's best friend, right? Anubis is a canine head. And he's the man's best friend, and he is also the god of embalmment. And he's the gateway to the gods. Check it out. A vulture, which is the fiercest mother on earth, is the embodiment of protective motherhood. And it was their superior knowledge of animals and appreciation of their role in the universe that made them consider animals for the embodiment of the divine principles and functions. Okay, so we're going to talk about the canons. A canon is a collection of books that are accepted by religion as genuine, like the Christian canon that was deemed by the Catholic Church, that I do not say is holy by no stretch of the imagination. 39 books in the Old and 27 in the New. 66 pickup sticks. Ancient Egyptians also had several sacred writings and teachings, but they were never incorporated into a single canon. Egyptian had never discarded any view, no matter what. Some of the writings were contradictory, but that did not matter because it was not anybody's business to select and choose for the people. They chose for themselves. They were free freaking thinkers. Each view was like a key to the truth, and the various views were like keys resembling the pattern of the lock. As such, they decided to respect and retain all views. There was never a single religious authority who had the power or desire to choose writings or incorporate them in a canon. as in the case with the Bible, except during Akhenaten's reign, which was an aberration. The essence of the Egyptian religion was metaphysical. The whole universe is an intentional creation, and man was created to accomplish a specific role within the grand cosmic scheme. Man who is born of flesh has the potential to become spirit, and the Egyptian canons described in detail the stages of the transformation process from man's earthly carnal to the pure spiritual. Brothers and sisters, you need to listen. To achieve the ultimate goal of reuniting with the divine origin, one must conduct oneself throughout life on earth in a manner consistent with the 42 ethical commandments, which are expressed in the terms of the negative confessions, or the Book of the Coming Forth by Day, commonly known as the Book of the Dead, which I do have that. Also, another good read is The Teachings of Amenhotep, and read Amenhotep III, which is going to be your biblical Solomon, his writings, and a lot of the things in the book of Proverbs they stole from Egypt and put in the Hebrew Bible. Some of the things that that are in the negative confessions: I have not done iniquity, I've not robbed, I've not done violence, I've not committed theft, I've not killed, I've not uttered falsehood, I haven't lied. Those are the things. And that's where you get in the Bible, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And the Neteru are considered the angels or the guardians of God. You know, we look at these things and people make such, it's not that we worship these things. Like in the Bible it says, you know, Yahweh says, do not worship idols, that you know, there should be no other gods except for me. Well, that ought to tell you right there in the Bible that there's more gods than him. Because if he was the only God, he wouldn't be telling you, don't worship any other gods. I mean, why would you say that? I mean, if you're the only God, you wouldn't have to say, don't worship any other gods besides me. Because if you're the only one, I mean, you should have to say that. So clearly there was a battle for worshiping a God from each nation. So the Neteru, who were called gods by some, were endorsed and incorporated into Christianity under a new name called angels. And some things that were found in the Qumran caves near the Dead Sea mentions the word gods in plural. Rejoice, O heavens, with him, and do good in him, ye gods. When the passage is quoted in the New Testament, Hebrews 1:6, the word gods is substituted with angels of God. Angels or Neteru are living energies. In wisdom teachings of various cultures, these powers are called by many names, including agents, angels, conscious thoughts, creative energies, devas, fathers, fountain, gates, governors, hands of God, lords, and shining ones. And it's funny because the Anunnaki were also called shiny ones in Samaria. And each part had a triad. So now, Set, the brother of Osiris, he was worshipped in ancient times, especially in the 19th dynasty. Seti the first took him. Each kingdom went and put their names under what god they worshipped, and it was 18th dynasty was very familiar with Thoth here. Thutmoses, son of Thoth, or beloved of Thoth. So Set was the brother of Osiris, and we know the thing about the fighting and then cutting up in the 14 pieces and all that, and blah blah blah, and Isis put them together, and they had baby Horus, and that's where you get the obelisk is supposed to be his phallus, and it points up to the sky as being significant of a resurrection, erection of the male phallus, rebirth. Okay, so that's basically kind of where you get the Satan thing from. But Jehovah, Yahweh, and Satan. Okay, so we're thinking about Satan in the Bible. It says the root ideas of Satanism go back beyond the 19th century BCE to the Gnostics. Okay, I like the Gnostics, they're pretty cool. They saw the world about them as profoundly evil, as the real hell, and life on earth as a sentence served in a prison planet. If the world is evil, then the power which made it rules it must be evil too. And some of the Gnostics identify this evil power of God of the Jews, who was described as creating the world in the book of Genesis, whose behavior in the Old Testament was found impossible to reconcile with the Christian principles. The good God, they said, lives far away in some distant heaven, and we on earth are in bondage. So they're talking about a demiurge like Enlil. But I told you there's a 2-flip coin on that, because Enki was benevolent and he was trying to help us too. In Jewish and Christian theory, the devil never attained the status of an independent God, but is always the subject to God's control. Later Jewish writers increasingly revised the older picture of Jehovah, separating out the good and the evil elements in his earlier character, and attributing actions which they felt to be evil, not to God, but to other supernatural powers. An example would be, remember I told you that in Chronicles, Satan is who suggested the census. But then in the other one, it was Yahweh that told them to number Israel. But you see, Satan began his career as a useful official in the heavenly court, but we were told later that he had become a master evil and the enemy of God. So 2 stories were told to explain how this change had happened. Those of the fall of Lucifer and the fall of the Watchers. When the Old Testament was translated into Greek, the Satan became Diablos, the accuser, with the implication of false accusation or slander, and this is the origin from which the word devil is derived. Diablos, daemon, devil. You see, when you understand the Sumerian text, they're trying to incorporate the Anunnaki and the Igigi. The Anunnaki were the ones that fell from heaven to earth, but the Igigi were the watchers that watched and orbited earth. So now you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey said. So this book that I'm getting this information from, and he's a very, very world-renowned scholar, Historical Deception, The Untold Story of Ancient Egypt, and this is by Mustafa Gadala, and it is a must-read. So all you brothers and sisters out there, get back to your lovely roots and know who you are. And Egypt always told themselves, man, woman, and child, you are Yod. You are God. And man, know thyself. And when you find who you are, there's no limits. An Egyptian proverb, my friends. So, as Nurse J always says, when you search for the truth shall set you free. And we're here to set you free, folks. So me and Thoth say, Hotep, Ashe, and we'll see you soon.